that if anything, you're defending yourself against medic teleport beacons more than actually using them. But at certain bases, especially once you can kind of gauge after a couple runs, hey, the enemy medic likes to stand in these positions. If you put a TB at, let's say, D7 behind the door, right as they come in, if the medic's in the corner but all the DMs are out front, you can blink on the medic and win that 1v1 or at least panic them, and you basically get your offensive free push right up to the flag. At A7, it's kind of by the boxes if the medic plays up. It's really a mental battle, kind of saying, hey, I'm capable of doing this. You might want to play back farther than you normally are. And because the medic now plays farther back, they're dragging their defense back with them. And you're giving your offense basically more space at that point.
Nice, nice. So how impactful to the overall game are blinks, do you guys believe?
Incredibly. If without blinks as a medic, you don't put pressure on the enemy SL whatsoever. It's just in a constant push and pull, but you never get that clear. Not against a competent SL anyway, who just stands back and fires EBs and summons. And then as an SL, without TBs, I mean, you can go the mind laming route, I guess, if you want, but without TBs, again, you're kind of missing a vital way to put pressure on the enemy medic, or hell, even the engineer if he's also playing back behind the 3 DMs.
Angelus, your take for offense, how impactful blinks are?
Yeah,
Peace
I
break.
mean,
Oh,
depending
okay.
on the different yeah, depending on the different method of offense you're running, they have different impact targets, right? If you're running primarily with an infil, it's not a JT offense, you're looking for a big burst blink if you're gonna do anything at all. So maybe you're running infil 3Ms. You want the infil to set a blink, back out passively, maybe EB someone for a quick pick, and then as your offense dies off, you'll cycle on comms. Hey, you guys tick me, don't ask for summon. So your SL is gonna back up to a safe spot, knowing he or she's not gonna have backup and then the info is going to blink at the turrets again, just like Hearth mentioned. The box is at A7, the box is at F4, maybe the bottom right of D6, mid right of A5. They're going to blink. You're just looking to explode a turret quickly. On the other hand, if the medic's played out of position in that scenario, someone will make the call typically of the medic's not here, TDN out. You'll see all these imps dive into a flag room full of turrets, try not to TK each other while taking out the 2 sentries and get out of there.
So
Blinks as far
incredibly
as the
impactful.
Yeah, I think in general they're impactful. And to credit Meds a little more than Hearth even did, we talk about the defensive blink. If a medic blinks but doesn't successfully clear it, it's still usually a net win unless he overextended a lot and got his defense cleared. Because when he blinks, he's TDing that SL for a bit, which is stalling down the offense. So the SL spamming, I can't summon, I can't summon. Offense begins to attach. They're attaching with less energy. They're burning their energizers, which is arguably the most important item to OMs, at least those using P6, and then they're not holding the fight like they were beforehand. So as someone that's played on both sides, I love a medic that's willing to blink every time they have it up. As long as we have turrets up top and like a heavy anchoring it in one of these long bases, I want the medic blinking as much as they can, even if it's not to clear, just to put that pressure on and slow down that constant cycle of okay, every 12 seconds they're back at our turrets. And any engineer in the game would probably say the same thing. They need that time to rebuild the tox pool and replace sentries like we talk about the blocker sentries or the flag room sentries, whatever's been picked off the last run. You just want to buy time on defense.
So on that note about energizers, the thing that regenerates your energy, being so important, the most valuable resource. Want to make a difference of who's the P6 users and the Kara users right here. Maybe we can spot some
Yeah, so
notable Kara users.
yeah, I mean typical Kara users in game. You look at Kara Tank, it's in the name. He also plays as Carapace. Worth, who usually plays as Carapace. On the other hand, for P6 users, myself, I'm an avid P6 user. Uh, Revenge P6 user. Shadow on
Okay.
defense P6 user. Mocha. So maybe we're a little more comfortable, and you can make the argument that if you can really maximize your lifespan every death and you're controlling your energy, P6 is stronger because you can stay more healthy. Whereas with Kara, you can quickly get bursted down just due to drain in the game. So when new players come along, we usually recommend, hey, if you're not comfortable dodging or like with inbound damage or mitigation, start with Kara. Let's get you here because it's going to make you immune to some of the larger stuff that's going to hit you. Shotgun, plasma turrets. You can ignore it as Kara. but it is at the cost of when an explosive comes at you, you're never going to have energy to absorb some of that.
So training wheels.
Yeah, absolutely.
So people like Kara Tank just never take off the training wheels.
That's up to him.
It's not even that though. I mean, we say it's training wheels, but even then, most successful infantries also have switch macros that allow them to say, "Hey, I'm going to switch my Kara for P6 and vice versa." As defense or offense both, once you identify what the opponent's armor is, you know how to immediately isolate that and do the most damage to them in the quickest amount of time.
Right.
Constantly switching it throws that Joker into the mix. All of a sudden, you might be eating shotgun because you're Kara now, and they just put 20 extra rounds into you that they wouldn't have before, and you just bought more time.
Oh man, you guys said so much and so little. The shotguns drain so much, and the fact that you to be immune to shotguns and shotguns being a meta weapon is it's very nice for training wheels to be immune to shotgun. But as you guys know, P6 users, um, shotgun will kill you with P6. But if you can mitigate that via dodging and energizing at the correct time, it'll keep you alive better than Kara because you're not going to be bursted down.
Yeah, and that typical, in micro fight of the game where it's fighter on fighter is shotgun when you think they're drained, then go for the RG. And if you have someone using P6 that's managing their energy, knows when to energize, they're going to eat that RG and only lose, 8 health. Whereas with Kara, you're going to lose so much energy that even with an energizer, you're going to be low enough that you're going to get chunked by the RG. So I do think ultimately P6 is a superior armor, but I think Kara has its own purpose too. And we talk about folks who've been using it forever in this game, they just prefer it. They play a different style than, I want to maximize how long I can stay alive. Maybe they want to absorb some of this stuff. They want to eat the shotgun so their teammates don't have to. We talk about these aggressive Kara IDF infantries. Even Metal, one of the captains, he's usually a Kara IDF user proudly and whatnot. It's just the playstyle of I want to be up close to you and not worry that your shotgun's going to kill me. And maybe I want to rush your flag room and not care about the plasma turrets.
Oh, 100%. But you're talking meta play as opposed to the pub noob who's learning the game, right? Training
Absolutely.
wheels versus like high level play in application. And you're absolutely right. Flaggers do want to wear Kara IDF. Not always, but often because they're running through intentionally taking damage
Yep.
and just if if I can ignore like all of these bullets, then I can focus my mental stack on dodging explosives.
Yep.
Ooh, looks like the game's
Looks like
on.
the game is on. Let's see how the flags go. Appreciate the input though, guys, on the discussion. Hopefully we can continue more of that tonight.
All right, so
2-1.
Yeah, Decker's team again taking collective, so we're expecting them to set up the base the same way. They're going to take A7. It looks like Power's in, Sabotage is in spec right now. I think that's the only difference I recall from the last game so far.
Looks like there's a
All right.
flag advantage so far. 4-1.
The other difference is that Captain X is not here.
Yeah, we've got Demon Seed in and Decker playing SL in place of Captain X.
I would have
So
been very
what
surprised if
offenses are
Decker
being
didn't play
run here?
again.
Sorry, what offenses are being run here?
I still think it's going to be a JT offense on Decker's team.
It's hard to tell on DB's team just because they currently have 2 DPS for flagging. We won't see until the class switch.
Yeah, they do have head at A7, which makes me think they're going to run the same thing they started with last week. Get straight to the heavy. They tried the JT, said after the game they weren't as comfortable with its progress and were much more comfortable running pure power, like we're seeing up at the turrets of A7.
All right, will head hit the turrets this time?
I thought head did fine last time. I know there was a lot of jokes made, but they were killing turrets on loop at D6.
Okay, let's take
Looks
note.
like
So
GT
far,
is on
we've hit
offense.
18.
This is a very interesting play.
GT went back home.
Yeah, we talk about aggressive medics. That's a different level. Going straight to the
The whole
base
different
with
level.
Beacon. Yeah. That's not something we want to teach our new players tonight.
Looks like DP is back. lagging just slightly a little bit. There is a flank here at A7. Will they be able to clear them? Looks like they're kind of outnumbered right now.
It's looking like it should be a clear.
That should be a clear.
See how
They're
much
trying to
damage Head
exchange
can
some
get on
turret
turrets.
damage for it. Yeah, it takes the RT to about 80, 100, yeah.
Switching our focus over to D7 since there will probably be a swing. We'll see if there is one.
And they've got Flared Inful again paired up with Chucky after some quick success last game. That Disruptor Splash did hit Nose, the new DM on this team.
So, what kind of offense would you prefer to run at D7?
I think for the most part, if you're running with a JT, you're looking for a flag room rushing offense, whether it's with your 3 imps or an inful. Just because of the way the bounce layouts work for the JTs, it's easy enough to get in and around the flag room while mitigating turret damage. So I talked about it before. When you progress through the base, it's not about killing people. It's about mitigating the damage you take and reserving reps where possible.
Decker with a TB blink.
Yeah, they're behind them all. I'm not sure if they realize it. Doesn't look like it's going to be in time.
No, I hope they stick with the JT offense at D7 because, speaking as a medic, when you're up against a JT D7, it's much harder. You have a lot less moments to actually successfully train or stun the JT because for the most part, he comes down once the doors open, and after 2 seconds, if that, he's already in your flank.
Yeah, it's a very tight space there. If you're staying on the left side of the base and just rushing the flag room, you're taking no turret damage threat until you get to the flag room. Whereas like we saw at F4, there's that long hallway right before the flag room where you're essentially dodging the turrets or fighting the turrets. You can essentially bypass that with a JT offense at D6.
So you would say this is your traditional JT offense versus your traditional 3-inf defense at D7?
Yeah.
Right now, he's out.
Yep, there's no TD there. Gone.
Exactly how a JT offense was supposed to be explosive.
In the blink of an eye, he's out. Now, do they have an SL up? I believe their SL is DP, who's just died outside.
Yeah, they've got GT out
Salvi's
there
there.
kind of anchoring. ZMN comes back in the game after subbing out for a little bit. ZMN's the info on PTT.
This offense is proven to be really powerful so far, and Chucky's still up there with a flag trying to pick off some people. Let's see how this 10-man goes here at A7.
Will ZMN be an impactful player?
You know, we talked about holding space before, and A7's a perfect 10-man example of holding space. Decker's team owns that hallway right now. They've got giant numbers in the hallway. It looks like 4 fighters in the hallway to the 2 on the other team. If they can't progress up to the choke, the game's over before it even gets to 30 seconds.
Exactly, and it's not looking very good right now.
No. It's disorganized. They're not making any kills. They're not grouping. Barring any other setback, this one should be over as well. It's too much
They
space
have
taken
one
up
more
by the
big
defenders.
push, but under normal circumstances, they would need to be up at the boxes before they'd be able to make that push in this time.
Exactly.
And it's a really good job by Decker's team of getting down there on the 10-man, and we see that in the mixed community all the time. Like, don't sit back by the turrets, get down if you have numbers. And in 2 games now, we've seen this team pull it off successfully.
That was a very quick match in 6 minutes. As CBC, if I have that correctly, Decker's team takes the win. Very impressive win.
All right. MVP opinions on that quick match?
For me, I would go with Chucky.
Yeah, that one was so quick, I think I'd go with Chucky by default.
Yeah, I don't.
Got in the flag room
agree with
just like we
anybody else.
described.
Are there any other JT offenses for this league?
So even the team that they just played against, 7th Plague, they ran with Head on a Deathboard JT in the first game for maybe 30% of the game. So there are folks who can play it, but as far as, their main class, I think it might just be Chucky.
You think he will be, if they win the whole thing, do you think he could be MVP for the league?
Yeah, absolutely. He's probably a top 3 pick for MVP if this team wins it all. You're going to see a lot of Chucky flagging it, sometimes getting out, sometimes creating someone as a holder, but it's a lot of impact on a defense, especially Again, this is a draft league. These guys don't play together a lot. There's not a lot of practice, so you don't know tendencies and whatnot, like you may know in a CTFPL league. So having a JT that can create that chaos is instrumental to this team flagging so quickly.
Do you
So a
think that
non-support class being high impact? Would you say is
uh,
a non-support class that is a high impact influence to the overall game?
Yeah, I think most classes can be giant impact in the game. There's not one class where you look at it, it's like, well, they have a small ceiling, they can't make a big difference. You could argue infantry, the front line people who are fighting in between the lines don't have that huge burst impact. On the other hand, if an infantry himself wins a 1 versus 2 battle, it can turn a base around. Where, oh, you thought we were clear? No, I killed both of you, we're deep. So I think it's more of a player potential thing than is a class potential thing.
How well people can play their roles?
Yeah, that's fair.
do you think that the draft on what Decker did there to get some players that know each other? I believe I don't know what the count of Dark Slayers are on there, but there are players that have played together there on that roster. Not as perfect as a stack squad, but it looks like they're dominating so far.
Yeah, it,
Yeah.
it could be attributed to that. Also, I know that Decker's team has had at least a handful of practices this week where they've spent the time, practicing different things on defensive lineups and offensive lineups, where some of these other squads, they can't get the people on at the same time. We talk about Verb Squad, and they have different time zones and everything. Whereas I think for Decker's squad, again, they've had this surprising, really strong attendance, which gives them more time to play together.
Yeah, absolutely. Team synergy is huge. You could get BDSD and 5 Pub 17 chumps on O, and they'll be fine for a good OVD.
So just to recap, we had a 8 p.m. match that was CBC over WAF, and then just now, in 6 minutes, very quick time, CBC over Seventh Plague. The next match is CFB versus TD. Are there anything there? We have about 15 minutes till that match starts up. Anything we're looking towards? Any of those players that
Yeah,
come to
I
mind?
think I think Noah brought it up earlier. We keep talking about the utility impacts here, and I mentioned the draft strategy that Senage or Metal took. They drafted back-to-back utility defensive classes. So assuming Bonds is playing medic and Big Timer's playing Engie, that's about as sturdy as a utility defense you're going to find in the league. So it'll be interesting to see how that holds up against potentially a Sov-led offense. Sov's one of the game's greatest leaders on either side, whether it's defense or offense, or what it looks like against less experienced players. A lot of people looked at the draft and said, well, then it just didn't take a whole lot of fighters. But we'll see if that kind of pays out or not in the next little while.
So who are Synerge's best fighters? Or I mean, sorry, who are was it Decker's team or who? That was anyways. Who are the best fighters if they have strong support?
Or
For
do you
the
want to
upcoming
stab on
match,
that?
For Metal's team,
Yeah, attack
Yeah.
Mateko.
honestly, it depends. If he has BT as engineer and not as a fighter, their best fighter is probably Cerrito or Marduk. He's kind of a very good infantry with a lot of great aim. He's like a mini Smoka. Right after that would be Tactical,
Yeah.
who's also a very good D heavy. Those two alone could definitely carry an offense or a defense, depending on how he positions them.
Yeah, I
Tactical's
would
so
agree.
popular he has a meme.
That also matches the draft sequence. I think Tactical slept on a lot in the mixed community. I've not known this guy but a couple months, but he seems really solid at D heavy. He plays a safe but still aggressive enough method, and I think he's a typical skirmish player where his resolution is bigger than a lot of the walls we're playing on, so he can see the base top to bottom. He's got the aim to go with it. So I think he's a good heavy. I think Cerrito's a good multi-classer, but you look at the depth beyond that, and it's questionable fighting on that roster. Good utility, but had to make sacrifices somewhere.
yeah, I do think they favor heavy more utility on that roster compared to Posey's roster. You can count many great fighters there, and we can't not talk about the number one pick on that side as well with Saab.
Who's gonna 2v1 the imps?
He'd be one to look out for when we talk about those kind of plays.
He's definitely capable of doing it.
All right, let's talk about Bale balls.
He's one of
Is
the
he gonna?
aggressive imps that we talked about on defense before. Some people prefer the Kara playstyle. He's one of them, from what I understand. He likes to push regardless of circumstances. So I would expect if they set up a traditional 5v5 where he's one of the two imps, maybe with Jake is a little more passive, Jake being Greed in this case, I expect Ball to be going after the SL, just like we expected Worth to do for Verb's team earlier. Not afraid to take some shots on the way out of the flag room. Doesn't really hesitate to fight. Doesn't play passive at all. He's always walking forward.
It's tough though trying to get that chemistry between an aggressive DM and a passive DM.
Yep.
If they don't gel, it causes way more harm than not.
The aggressive ones are usually going to be Kara, right?
Typically, yes, because they're usually the first ones out of the flag room. So, and with a rep charge, so they're taking damage whether they like it or not. Kara just helps them sustain through that.
Are there any up and coming players that we see could shine tonight that can get a chance in a matchup like this?
I think there's an obvious one for the community on Posty's team. I'm sure Hearth knows who I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, we talking about the Great Chompy?
Big Chomp.
I thought
They
you
had
guys were
like
going to bring up
the
half
draft
cut.
prediction.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, wasn't going to. They had it during the draft, the predictions of like who's the up and coming player in this draft, and a lot of us said Chompy. We don't really know this guy from years ago. I don't know how new he is, but I've played with him. He's very receptive to feedback. His mechanics are, strong on offense and whatnot. So I think we could see some breakout potential here where he's beating people in these 1v1 scenarios we see in a base that maybe you're not expecting to see beat. I've seen it happen in mixes. I mean, I've lost to Chompy in mixes. Get too close
Oh,
to the guy, and it's like he just locks in.
so a couple of things on that. This is all on infantry.
Yeah.
And then, is he a P6 user?
I think he switches. I know he's been Kara recently. I think someone's hooked him up with the switch macros, where throughout a game he switches. I can say the past couple nights when I've played against him, he's been Kara, at least for the majority of the time. But like Stav and Iron and these other imps who are considered the top of the community, they'll have quick macros to shift over. If they're getting killed by shotgun too much, they'll switch to Carapace to catch these DMs off guard. And I think he's doing that.
Yeah, that's good. It's his ability to understand the feeling of P6 and Kara and adjust accordingly to both, to what's necessary is a great asset.
So there is one more match after this. So this is going to be a very interesting one. But I am looking forward to seeing Chompy play. I saw
I think
him
he has a good
dueling
attitude to get
someone,
better.
yeah, and he's pretty good with aiming.
Oh. Yeah, I see him asking people for duels.
Yeah, he's focusing on the little things too. After an OVD or a mix, he's very quick to PM me or whoever he's playing with and say like, "Hey, did you see anything I could do better in this scenario?" And then he'll lay out a scenario of what he was up against. What would you recommend I do? And he understands like there's different options and timing. So I think he's really getting into the nuts and bolts of the game, and it's aiding him a lot in his development.